Shalom, everyone, and we are in a special week. It's the week of Parashat BeShalah, the week of the splitting of the Red Sea and all the miracles. So the topic is the gifts of Parashat BeShalah. There's so many gifts, the 72 names of God, the manna, the healing, the secrets of healing, and the most important is personal freedom. And let's see how it goes with today's parasha, which is so important and so loaded with treasures. So let us start. In order to get the presentation, in order to understand the topic behind it, so we're going to Exodus 15, verse 6, and over there it says, Yemincha Adonai nedari bakoach, Yemincha Adonai tir'atz oyev. Your right hand, God, Hashem, is so powerful, and your right hand will destroy the enemy. Okay, that's the way it says so. And the question is, why twice your right hand in the same verse? Rashi, the great commentator from the 11th century in France, who was the greatest commentator of all the times, he's asking the same question. He's saying, why twice right? And he answers, כשישראל עושים את רצונו של מקום, when the people of Israel are doing God's will, השמאל נעשית ימין. The left becomes the right. And here, when we know some Kabbalistic background, the left means judgment. And here it says the judgment becomes mercy, grace, and loving kindness. Okay, that's Rashi's commentary. It's not all the commentary he has about this verse, but this is one of them. Okay, and Rashi is not having his own opinion. Rashi is basically bringing all the summary of all commentaries that were published before his time in the period of more than 1,000 years before. So what does that mean to turn the left into right? So Rabbi Ashlag adds from the introduction to the Zohar, verse 121. And that will be the introduction that will make us understand all the huge gifts of Parashat BeShalah. Although we go and we read the Parasha, yes, there are so many miracles in the Parasha, but there's also so many pitfalls in this Parasha that are beyond embarrassing when you read them. So it's all about us, each one of us, individually, our daily challenges, and these are the words of Rabbi Ashlag. And I'm reading, of course, in the Hebrew. I'll translate into the English. כי באמת כל ריבוי הסתירות נגד ייחודו יתברך, שאנו תואמים בעולם הזה. אף על פי שמתחילתן הן מפרידות אותנו מהשם יתברך. הנה בהיותנו מתאמצים לקיים התורה והמצוות באהבה בכל נפשנו, ומעודנו כמצווה אלינו, דהיינו על מנת להשפיע נחת רוח ליוצרנו, וכל אלו כוחות הפירוד אינם משפיעים עלינו, לגרוע משהו מאהבת השם בכל נפשנו ומעודנו. Okay, so truthfully, when we see all the stirot means contradictions. When we see all the contradictions, when a human being goes through his day or her day, there are so many contradictions that are basically arousing doubt in our mind about God's unity. If there is one God, why evil people are successful? Why there's so much vicious people? There's so much negativity and darkness and so on. And where is justice? All of this, that's called contradictions. In our brain, we have contradictions. If God is so great, why is it like this? So all of those contradictions that we taste, we feel, we understand, we perceive in this physical universe, although that in the beginning, those contradictions separate us from the Creator, blessed be He. Anyway, while we are making the efforts to follow the Torah and the mitzvot, God's basically orders how to live a proper life. When we do that with love, with all our might, with all our souls, as we are being told, which means we have that goal that everything we do in this world is just the journey towards getting closer to God. And how can we get closer to God? By becoming like Him, which means He does not receive anything. But we were created by Him so we can receive. So how, by the law of affinity, how can we attach ourselves to the Creator? By the law of affinity, we are the farthest away from the Creator possible because our selfishness, our whims, our desires, our wants, they separate us from the Creator. How can we get closer to the Creator? So we spoke about it in the previous Parashot. Remember, we are during the journey of the ShOVaVIM. And the journey started in Parashat Shmot 3 weeks ago. And when we said, Ele Shmot Bnei Yisrael Habayim Mitzrayma, these are the names of the children of Israel coming, present continuous, to Egypt. It means these are the forces of the soul that are all the time, ongoingly, entering the body. And as the body matures and grows, the forces of the soul also mature and grow. And we have one goal, and the goal is to choose the soul over the body, which means we have to grow and we have to overcome the selfish desires of the body, the narrow place, which is called Egypt, or in Hebrew, Mitzrayim, which means the narrow place. The body is a suffocating, narrow place relatively to the soul. And the only way we can do that is fighting, overcoming all of those feelings, emotions, opinions that they are coming, broadcasting from the body, and they limit us. How do we go above it? We have the study of the Torah and spirituality. We have prayers. We have all of those actions that are basically there as tools to elevate us above our dungeon, our limitation in the body. Okay? The previous parasha, Parashat Bo, we learned that the way to weaken the body, which is Pharaoh in Egypt, is not logically, but we need, through our efforts of becoming more spiritual, we need to project or inject spiritual light all the time into our snake, which is Pharaoh and Egypt, to the core. And that can happen only when we simply try daily to do everything possible in every opportunity to ascend and connect to enlightenment, because that light is the only thing that can remove the power of the darkness, which is Pharaoh and Egypt internally inside each one of us. When we do that, we can slowly ascend, transcend, day by day, year by year. It's not a short journey, it's a long journey. It's a long-term journey until we transform our selfishness into the desire to receive for the sake of sharing with the Creator. He created us so we can receive His bliss. We will do anything possible to transcend our body, transcend our selfishness, and reach that place that we do receive enlightenment and real godly pleasure. However, that will be in order to get closer to Him. When we have that state of mind, okay, last week also we learned that during the Exodus, the Israelites experience a great redemption. What does it mean, a great redemption? Only when so much light is coming in, when it crosses the limit, there's a moment that we can grow from being small-minded, slave-like thinking people into greatness, which means free-minded people that really understand what life is about. Only great amount of spiritual light can do that. You cannot get it by studying books, because books are still can give you information, but you have so many academics who study spiritual texts, doesn't change them even a bit. Maybe they become a little bit more bitter because they use the medication, but in the wrong way. And we see what does it mean later on. So we have when we read those parashot, when we experience the holy day of Passover, so it's twice a week, twice a year, and even more than that, because we, in all our prayers daily, we remind all the time the Exodus and Egypt. Why? Because this is a historical moment for all of humanity in which physical people become spiritual, become by overcoming the physical limitation. Okay, so that light is available for the grab, which means all of us, we need simply to bring it down, and this parasha gives us the tools. And all those forces of doubt and pain that come in our minds all the time, they have to come in our minds. Okay? When we reach such a place of devotion and purity that our love towards God cannot be diminished by those contradictions, when we see here and there that evil people are stronger and are winning here and there, okay, for the short run. When we see injustice, when that does not affect our trust and our connection to God, when we reach that place, as kol stira v'stira שהתגברנו עליה, so then when we reach that level, every contradiction that we overcame in the past, נעשית שער להשגת חוכמתו יתברך, becomes a gate for elevation and perception of God's true wisdom. Again, all the contradictions, all the doubts, all the moments of pain and darkness that really have the ability to separate us from our trust and our love to God and to the creation. All of those contradictions and fears and stuff like this, the moment we overcome, the moment we really reach that level of true unconditional connection to the light of God, all of those contradictions that we fought in the past become a gate, each one of them, to the wisdom of the Creator. Why? כי כל סתירה יש בה סגולה מיוחדת, לגלות מדרגה מיוחדת בהשגתו יתברך. Because every contradiction, and there are so many of them, sometimes we manage to deal with a certain kind of injustice without being upset about it, and our trust in God and our faith in God is kind of diminished because of it. The moment we overcome that aspect, there are other contradictions that we have to work on them separately, individually. Each one of them. Why is it? Why can't we just, one size fits all? And the answer is because every different contradiction, doubt that we have to fight in order to reach balance, okay? And every injustice, every pain we experience or we see others experiencing has a special value in order to reveal another level of God's light, God's revelation. So there are so many contradictions. There are so many different forces that try to split and separate us from the Creator, because each one of them is another gate for another level or aspect of wisdom. And because there are no free lunches, nothing is free in this world, each pain, each misery, each doubt is basically hiding behind itself a gate for another greatness in our connection to the Creator. So those people that purify themselves enough to have the merit for that, what they do, they reverse darkness into light, and bitterness into sweet. Because all of those forces that are aiming at separating us from our Creator, separating us from well-being, separating us from that great revelation in which we become truly free in our love to God, humanity, and the creation, without any contradictions. All of those forces, they're basically the darkness of the brain, of the mind, and also the bitterness of the body. The moment we merit by hard work that takes our lifetimes, those contradictions, those blockages, those negativities, those mishaps that we have, all of those that gives us darkness and bitterness, each one of them becomes an individual great gate for supernal divine levels of spiritual greatness. And then the darkness becomes a great light and the bitterness becomes sweet. These are Rabbi Ashlag's explanations. So when we understand that, which is so important, because we have to remind that to ourselves daily, so we can basically overcome all of those dark moments, tough moments of the day, and understand that each tough moment like this is a promising gate to wisdom. The moment we remove in our mind, in our hearts, the contradiction, and we turn it into an opportunity. That given state of mind, that given understanding is the most important one. When we really grasp it, we can do everything. We can face everything. We can win everywhere. So now, after that introduction, we can understand that this Parasha of BeShalah is such a huge basket of great gifts that the Creator is giving us every year during this week, and we can use these gifts for the rest of the year. So let's start, and we can understand it to the details in the Parasha. So the Parasha is starting in Exodus 13, verse 17, and it starts with the words, Vahi BeShalach Paro et ha'am, and it was when Pharaoh sent the people away. Okay, why did Pharaoh send the people away? When he gets beaten up by 10 plagues, he sends the people away. When we beat up our body consciousness and our logic with light of spirituality by high potence, high intensity, then the body simply lets, not just is letting the soul go, he's sending it away because the body suffers a lot. Okay, stop beating me up and go and do whatever you want. When we want to achieve true freedom, we have to tire the body. Usually the body is tiring us by, all the whims. I wanted this, I wanted that, I want it warm, I want it cold, sweet, I want it bitter, I want it sour. I want it big, I want it small, I want it thick, I want it, it's like a little kid always whining, demanding, crying, asking with its, like little kids, it's manic depressive. It's like they're crazy about excitement about nothing, and then they can whine and cry for hours about also nothing. So it doesn't matter that as much as you feed your body, it's not going to give you any rest. It may be for a few minutes, but here you have to go and reach real, true freedom only when you tire the body till the body, like Pharaoh, get out of here. I don't want to deal with you anymore. Okay, so that's one aspect. ולא נחם אלוהים דרך ארץ פלישתים. And then God did not take them through the land of the Philistines. כי קרובו. If you know the map, look at the map of the Middle East. The Jews, or the Israelites, they lived in Goshen, which was by the delta of the river Nile. That means they were close to the sea, to the Mediterranean. If you look at the map, you see that in order to get to the Holy Land, to the Promised Land, they simply had to follow the road by the sea and to go east. Just going east, those days there was no Suez Canal, so the roads were clean. They could simply go, and within 3 days, they would be already in the land that is called Pleshet. Pleshet means the land of the invaders. Later on, the name was corrupted by the Greeks into Palestine. But the name was originally Pleshet, which means the land of the invaders, because that land was invaded by the sea people that came from Crete, Sardinia, and other islands. There were European people invading to a land that was Semitic or Hamitic. Okay, and that's why everybody called that area the land of the invaders, Pleshet, in Greek, and then Latin, Palestine. Okay, and so the origin is from Hebrew, the name Palestine, the land of the invaders. So the invaders were really powerful. They were warriors. They had iron weapons. So God did not want them to go to the land of the Pleshet, the invaders, because they were not ready to fight them. But that's not really true, because if they don't go through Gaza, they could continue east directly from the shores of the Mediterranean to BeShalah, and then north to the main mount, which is Judea and Samaria of today, which is the main core of the Promised Land. Why didn't God take them through that? And the answer is, the Torah says very clearly, verse 18, Vayasev Elohim et ha'am derech hamidbar. And God took them around through the desert so they will cross the Red Sea. If you look at the map again, you see that the Red Sea is so much farther south. They did not have to go to the Red Sea, to go into the Sinai, okay, into the desert to go away from Egypt. Why God? And it says God took them around, a detour, making the road longer. Okay? So why was it like this? And the Zohar is explaining, which is an amazing, just to support all what we just said. Okay? So the Zohar is saying something really important. Verse 25 in the Zohar, Asulam. Come and see. כשיצאו בני ישראל ממצרים, when the Israelites left Egypt, רוחם היה נשבר בקרבם והיו שומעים התשבחות של המלאכים. They were totally broken, and I explained it in previous years. They were basically in what we call post-trauma. Why, says the Zohar, when you are in a place like Egypt and you are basically threatened daily and you are a slave and you see your children being thrown into the Nile and your friends and family being murdered because you're a slave, you're just somebody's property, you have no worth whatsoever, and you have no rights for life or for property or something else, you are in a trauma, terrible trauma, and all what you have in your mind is surviving the next hour, the next day. So says the Zohar, when you come out from that dark place, you are really in a post-traumatic place. Your mind, your heart, everything is broken. The Israelites leaving Egypt, they were not happy. They were broken. They were in terrible post-trauma. For centuries, they were slaves and they suffered the most horrible abuse by the Egyptians. So, as they're walking in the desert, the angels, says the Zohar, were singing to them in order to heal them. And also, on the roads, all kinds of healing plants grew up, and the smells of the plants made them heal. And little by little, they started to heal from the horrible bondage they were at for centuries. Okay, now, and that is, so we have to understand, in Egypt, we were not free people. We were slaves, total slaves to Egypt. And that means in many aspects, all of us, all humans, are enslaved to their body to the extent that we don't even realize how much we suffer only till when we finally get rid of that slavery, then we are post-traumatic because we are not even aware of how terrible the pain is of that bondage in a human body, with all the addictions and the emotions that are really suppressing the soul from growing. Now, every person has to go through an elevation. Every person has to go sooner or later in his life or her lifetimes, in which you start to reveal little by little, like windows of freedom. And they are very uncomfortable, because then you realize how much you suffered beforehand, okay? So in order to become free human beings, we had to go to a first stage, which is healing, okay? That was the first stage. This stage did not take long. It took 6 days only. And then, what does it say? Verse 30 in the Zohar, הסולם, ויסב אלוהים את העם דרך המדבר ים סוף, לתקנה אחר לאחרי. Okay, and the Zohar is explaining why. Why did God take the nation out of the way? You know, you could go 3 days and you're already like Israel and Egypt. Today, there's still 2 countries in the same name, Israel and Egypt. These 2 countries are neighboring countries, okay? It took 3 days to walk to make that road. Why going to the Red Sea? And the purpose was, כדי לעשות, says Rabbi Ashlag, כדי לעשות קריעת ים סוף. God planned ahead the whole scene of the splitting of the Red Sea. Otherwise, they could go straight to the desert. Okay? So the whole thing of the splitting of the Red Sea was totally planned in advance. But why? And the answer is, as they come, after 6 days of healing, marching on the land, getting used to the idea that they're free, that there's nobody there to kill them. There's nobody to abuse their rights for happiness. Okay, that most of us see it as a given right. We've grown with it, but they lived in the world of darkness. They didn't even believe that this is a possibility. Okay, maybe you had a very light memory from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They thought about freedom, and they were kind of free people in a world of slavery and injustice and abuse. So when they're coming to the 6th day, they are reaching the Red Sea. Okay, God takes them purposely to the Red Sea. Ufaro hikriv. And I'm reading now Exodus 14, verse 10. Ufaro hikriv, and Pharaoh, most of the translation will say, came close to the Israelites. But it doesn't say so. In Hebrew, it says, and Pharaoh brought closer, which is grammatically a very weird way to say it. It's not right. If you, in the context, Vaisu, and but the Zohar is saying, many other sages are saying, no, Pharaoh, it didn't mean to say, and Pharaoh came closer. He brought the Israelites closer, because after they rested a little bit, after they had these 6 days of treatment, of healing, with all of these angels singing and the smells, and the pillar of fire and the pillar of a cloud walking in front of them, they were kind of pampered, getting used to the idea that's how you feel when you are free. But we're not here, human beings, in this world to feel like this. We're here to face challenges. So the challenges come. As the Israelites are coming to the shores of the Red Sea, the sea is in front of them, and whoever been to the Red Sea is a very deep sea, very deep. The water are very, very blue. They're not red. You know why? Because the Hebrew name is Yam Suf, which means the reed sea, and somebody messed it up and took it as Red Sea. The Red Sea is so blue, you can't imagine. Okay, so, but it says, and Pharaoh brought closer, he brought the Israelites closer to God. Vaisu bnei Yisrael et einaim, and the Israelites raised their eyes, and they saw Egypt traveling after them. והנה מצרים נוסע אחריהם. ויראו מאור, they were very much in fear. ויצעקו בני ישראל אל אדוני, and they yelled to God. Remember, they never prayed to God before as a nation. Yes, they suffered together. They moaned together. They felt the pain together, but they never took an initiative to raise their voice and to pray for God's help. Maybe because they never believed that this help is available. In the Mechilta of Rabbi Ishmael, it's a midrash of over 2,000 years. It says, Miyad tafsu lahem omanut avotam. Immediately, they took the art of their ancestors, omanut Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the art of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prayer. Remember, being slaves in Egypt, they never prayed. They simply were poor slaves, victims without any hope. Now, feeling redemption, they're coming to their first test, which means you want to be a free human being. Now you have to pass the first test, the right of way towards greatness, which means here it is, you're facing the Red Sea. Can't cross it. It's very deep. There are mountains on the right, mountains on the left, and the Egyptian army behind you. What can you do? They pray. Okay? And we learn from Abraham about the prayers of the morning prayer, from Isaac about the afternoon prayer, and Jacob about an evening prayer, all about the three forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, was about prayer, because the prayer can take us to places we've never been before. Just when we pray with an open heart and with hope. And that's what they did. It was the first time in history the Israelite nation is becoming a nation. Till that moment, there were a bunch of run-off refugees, runaway slaves. And that is the first moment they are realizing the power of prayer, that now when they feel the freedom, the soul is capable of praying. When a person is very deep in his slavery, he's not capable of real praying. Real praying is when you have faith, when you have hope, when you really know deep inside there is a God that loves you more than you even know about. That was a very important moment in the history of humanity. It's the first time a whole nation believes in the good while seeing horrible picture. Here they are cornered, they have no way to go. Pharaoh is going to kill all of them, and the story is over. And they're praying. Remember that. We need this moment so many times a day, because this is the moment that we become a real human being. A real human being is someone that has the ability to change reality with speech. And that is the prayer. Okay. And then something weird happens. God answers their prayers saying, do not yell at me anymore. And he says, God will pray for you, you keep silence. What a very weird answer. You can find it in verse 14, chapter 14. God will fight for you, you keep silent. What does that mean? So now we come to another secret. When we pray for help, when we pray for salvation, we need to make the first step, which is opening our minds and hearts for something that is above us, above our level, above our frequency, above our reality, above our imagination. Never ever tell God how do you want him to solve your problem? It's like, the famous saying, the logic that brought you into the problem won't get you out of there, because it knows only how to get you in the problem. So when you really pray, you have to ask for what? For salvation, period. How? Don't give God ideas. Why? He knows better. Which means you have to keep silent, which means when you really pray with all your might and you ask for salvation, do not bring in your experience and do not bring in your logic. Just ask for salvation. And when you ask for salvation, let the salvation come in. Let the light of the Creator make the salvation happen the way it should be, not the way your mind thought it should be. Remember, as we said before, the whole contradiction that said, like, we just got out of Egypt and now Pharaoh is again after us. We thought we were over that. Here it goes again. It's terrible. It's upsetting. It's like the whole trauma is coming all over again. Stop. Do not awaken judgment, because remembering the trauma is remembering the judgment. And when you're stuck with judgment, how could the light of God come in and solve the problem? We have to step aside, which means keep our minds silent and just trust the love of God. When we do that, the mercy awakens from above, and all the impossible out-of-the-box solutions flow in, and we just have to follow what we see that is inevitable. Did anyone among the Israelites think about the solution that the whole nation will walk over the sea and then the Egyptians will drown in that same sea? That's out-of-the-box solution. But this is historical moment for all human beings. The solutions are always outside the box. Do not make noise of judgment and fear and anxiety. If you are stuck with a question, with a problem, you don't leave any place for the solution to come in. So you have to pray. But the purpose of the prayer is to bring us to a place in which we can achieve a connection to the Creator without telling him what to do, without our imagination and logic that belongs to the problem take over again, and with its judgment and limitation, stop the solution from coming in. And this is a very important concept in every day's life. It's something we have to train ourselves daily, hourly, because if you really want to understand human's life, there's nothing but that. That's the only story. Our connection to the light, which means, one hand, being able to ask for help. The other hand, don't disturb the help from coming in, but knowing there's something so great, so positive, so merciful, so kind and so graceful that is willing to come in, and it will come in when we pray for it. But just don't put your 2 cents into it, because that's judgment. And then it goes on. And the Zohar gives a more detailed explanation. In the Zohar of verse 180 of Sulam, as it says, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe ma titzak elai." And God says to Moses, "What are you yelling at me?" This is verse 15, chapter 14. V'tana b'sifra ditzniut, and it's written in the book. It's a part of the Zohar that is called Sifra ditzniut. Elai daika. To me, God says, "Do not scream at me." At me, which means to the God that we know, the God of somehow spiritual consciousness. But there's a higher perception of God. Be'atika talia kula. Be'ishata etgalei atika kadisha. And that moment, that level of God's revelation that is called, we learned from Parashat Shemot and on, that the whole story is about the names of God. The whole book of Exodus is called in Hebrew the book of names, Sefer Shemot. Each name of God is revealing another perception, a higher level of connection to God's light. So all of those names of God that they are written in the Hebrew Torah are not different names of God. They're basically revealing the different levels of our communication with God's presence, which means God's presence is always the same. It's never changing. Our experience is changing according to our actions. The highest of them all that we all want to reach, because this is the greatest level of enlightenment possible, is called Atika Kadisha. The word Atik means in Hebrew to copy and remove. It's like when the endless light is copied down and removed to our physical reality. And then we can experience a glimpse of great enlightenment without any limitation. That's called Atik. By the way, this world, in order to remember, this world came later on into English. When you say antique, antiques, it means something ancient, also in Hebrew. What does it mean ancient? Something primordial to everything else. So the word atik, antique in English is from the Hebrew atik. So remember that. Something that was before everything else. What was before everything else? The endless light of God. This is Atika Kadisha. This is the holy antique. That's a real exclusive antique, the ancient light before it was corrupted, coming through the Sefirot and all the curtains of the creation. And when we really reveal that great ancient light, original, primordial light of the creation, before any limitation, that's the light that God wants to give each one of us. Then it's a time, it brings goodwill and appeasement in all the worlds. Who does that depend on? Our ability to overcome the noise, the contradictions, the bitterness, the fear, the anxiety, all of those reactive emotions. And then the light, original light, the precious light of the endless shines through everything. This is the moment of enlightenment. What's the condition that will happen? That we have to overcome all the contradictions, the separations, and all those thoughts of negativity. So those thoughts of negativity and contradictions, they're basically the gates of the real true wisdom. What's the real true wisdom? There's only God's light, and there's nothing but this light. When you let this light coming in, when we let that light coming in, everything is possible, and everything will turn out okay. Will come out great. So, why was that so important, says the Zohar? And the answer is, we know that the wisdom of the Egyptians, it was all about black, dark magic. Whoever learns the ancient religion and tradition of the Egyptians, they were smart. They had accumulated a lot of wisdom. This wisdom was very ancient, but it was from the dark side, judgment. So in order to split the Red Sea and drown the Egyptians, you had, says the Zohar, to remove their root in holiness. And only the light of Atika Kadisha, only the real, like the highest level of a revelation was strong enough to really remove the power of the Egyptians forever. And that, so there were two things that happened on the Dead Sea. One, on the Red Sea. One, the Israelites are facing their first encounter with free will. Till that moment, 10 plagues, they had no free will. It was given to them. Walking in the desert, that was given to them. Now you graduate, you have your graduation grade test. Turn the bitterness, the impossible, the problem that has no solution, turn it into endless light. And they succeeded greatly. Greatly. Even the story is saying that when Moses split the Red Sea, nobody saw it. And then Moses, the sea is split. And Nachshon ben Aminadav, the leader of the tribe of Yehuda, said, if Moses said that God told him that the sea is split, let's go. And he jumps into the sea. And the people around him trust him, and they jump into the sea. And they walk into the sea, and only when the water reached up to their necks, they saw that the sea is split, which means they had to have a real trust, a quantum leap into a different world, a world of salvation, a world of salvation that came from the simple people, prayer and simple faith. That was the revelation of the splitting of the Red Sea. We can do it. Remember the previous chapters, they speak about freedom, but the freedom came out of godly plagues. The people were totally passive. This is when the Israelites as a nation step up to history till today. With the prayer, with the faith, you can change the direction of history. And who did it? It was not given by God. It was done by the people. וזה שאמר, שזה אנפין הממה תצעק אליי, באתי קטלי אשר אורו הגדול. Okay, I think we got it. So here we have in Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation, Mishnah Aleph, 10 ספירות בלימה. There are 10 ספירות, but you have to shut your mouth from speaking. בלום פיך מלדבר, ולבך מלהרהר, in your heart, from thinking. ואם רצפיך לדבר, and not even let your mouth to speak. ולבך מלהרהר, and your heart to have thoughts. שוב למקום, return to the place you came from. שלכך נאמר, והחיות רצו ושוב על זה, דבר זה נכרת הברית. It's all about being able to shut down just for a moment all the inner noise, and with complete silence and faith connect to God. When you reach the place, everything is possible. Everything is great. Everything will happen, just the good, because that was the purpose of the whole problem in the first place. So we learn from that the splitting of the Red Sea came from that high place, which is so high. This is the original flow of the endless light of the creation into the tree of life. In this stage, the light is so pure that when you connect to that level, everything is really possible, like the story about the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, 18th century in the Eastern Europe. And the story is that they ran away from the Cossacks and they hid in a cave. And they were sitting in the cave, and it was freezing cold in the winter in the Ukraine. And they wanted to study, and it was dark. So the Baal Shem Tov said, take the icicles and light them. And people said, Rabbi, icicles don't light. And the Baal Shem Tov said, whoever said that oil will burn will say that the water, ice, will burn. And they lit it, and it burned till the morning. They have light to study in the hiding place, which means there's something really important. What is the will of the Creator? It's only to share. When we connect to that will, and we can shut down all the noise of pain, abuse, lusts, all other that are bodily, and we allow that to come in, everything is possible. It's when God's will really penetrates through us into this physical dark reality. God's light cannot penetrate only when we invite it this way. Now, this is also called the holy beard, where all the when all that light is coming down, it's coming like white hair of a beard coming down. That's why it's called the holy beard, because white, many hairs, because when it goes through the curtains, all that ancient, primordial, endless light, it's coming in to a limited place. So it's like the light is coming through many, many, many like threads of light, that it looks like a beard, a white, shining beard, the holy beard, okay? So the frequency of that light is 78, mazala, the flow of good luck, good fortune, and that is represented by the name of God, the Tetragrammaton, 3 times. Each one of the 3 times is 26, together 78, which every time that you want to connect to the world beyond logic, curtains, separations, contradictions, that's where we go to. How we get there? First, we have to use 72 names of God. Here we have a picture of the Zohar printed in Livorno. Livorno for centuries was the main capital of Jewish books printed for the whole Mediterranean and the north also, for all kinds of and the Zohar was, this is a picture from the Zohar, 1856, and you can see the 72 names printed in the Zohar of that time. What is the meaning of these 72 names? And it says that this is the secret, the Midrash Rabbi, Bereshit, Parasha Mem Dalet. We have there that the 72 names, based on the secret of the number 72, is about redemption. It's about redemption. And the future redemption is also connected to that. Okay, Rashi. Remember Rashi, the great commentator, he didn't just write a commentary to the Bible, to the 24 books of the Bible, but also the Talmud. And he explains there's a prayer in the time of Sukkot, the 7 days of Sukkot, Ani Vaho Hoshiana. Okay, you can read it here. See, Ani Vaho Hoshiana. And it doesn't mean Vaho does not have any meaning in any other prayer or place in Hebrew. And Rashi explains that with these words on the tractate of Sukkah, the Talmud Sukkah, page 45, side 45a. And he says, Ani Vaho, first of all, in Gematria, Ani Vaho is 78. Mazala. And it's also, in the 78, is also Ana Hashem, please God. Ana Hashem. And says Rashi, that is from the 72 names of God. That in the 3 verses describing the splitting of the Red Sea, If you put them together and make 72 names out of it, as we're going to show later on, you get 72 names. And if you divide them, when you divide them into two groups, two equal groups of 36 names, the name in the first group, the first name of the first group is Vaho, and the first name of the second group is Ani. So when you don't have time to meditate, to contemplate, to activate within you all 72 names, you use only the first of the first group and the first of the second group, Ani Vaho. And that will take you beyond the physical world. That is a meditative tradition, a meditative exercise that you should take daily for all your life. So when you come to that place, that you need to ascend to that place of the endless light of Mazala, the original light, like on the Red Sea, this is how you get there, using the 72 names. How do you use the 72 names? So first of all, we know also that this is Rabbeinu Bachya, another great sage from the 11th century. He says that those 72 names, they have many, many traditions, there's a lot of wisdom. Remember, this is before the Zohar is being revealed. Okay, so there were people who knew Kabbalah and Zohar, but nobody spoke about it. And some names are there to bring whoever is far away, and some are for love. And it's very important we use them during our prayers so we can awaken God's love to us. Okay, that's Rabbi Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher. Okay, so the 72 names in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 19 till 21. Okay, it's 3 verses, 72 letters in each verse, only in the Hebrew, not in any translation. Okay, when you put them together, which means you write one of them straight, right to left, the Hebrew is right to left, then underneath the verse 19, you write verse 20, left to right, and then underneath, you write verse 21, right to left. You get 72 columns of 3 letters each. Now you can put them in this chart, in this matrix that you have. You start right to left from the top right, Vav Hey Vav, Yud Lamed Yud, Samech Yud Tet. And by the way, you're not supposed to try to read them. Why? Because different vowels give different results. So since we don't know, at least we say the names of the letters, which is also very important meditation. Here you have Vav, Hey, Vav. Okay? That's the first name. The second you have Yud. This is for salvation, as we realized before, when it's coming with Ani. Ani, we saw it before. Here's the Ani. So we have Ani, Vaho. Okay? Yud Lamed Yud, that can help visiting the sick. Okay, you have another famous one is Ayin Lamed Mem, when you need to quiet your mind. Mem Hey Shin is for healing. Lamed Lamed Hey is for sleeping. Aleph Kaf Aleph for purifying the heart. Kaf Hey Taf is when you want to fight negativity inside and outside, and so on and so on. It's not right now the name of the game. It's not our story. We'll continue. So here you see the first verse, right to left. You can see it over here. See the yellow here, Va, Yi, Sa. That's the first letter in each in each place in the matrix. Okay, that's a Vav, is the first letter, here is the Vav. The Yud is the second letter, here it is. Samech is the third, here it is. Ein is here. Mem is here. Lamed is here. Aleph is here, and so on. Malach, here's the Kaf, here's the Taf, the Kaf. So it goes from beginning to the end, the same story. And then the second verse, it's backwards. So you start from the last word, which is bottom left. So that's a middle letter. It's a second letter. Now you go backwards. Va, ya, vo, bein, ma, cha, ne, mitz, ra, him. So you see that goes backwards. And the third verse, again, vayet Moshe et yado. Here's va, yet. It's a third letter in each box. From the top right, from right to left. Va, yet, Moshe, et, yado. So you see the same thing. That was used for many, many centuries for protection in amulets. This is an amulet from the 18th century in Jerusalem. And here you have inside, you have the 72 names. Okay, written here in a different way for protection. Another amulet from the 17th century from Germany. You can see it here. One side, you can see the 72 names. So here it's much better to see. So you see Vav Hey Vav, Yud Lamed Yud, Samech Yud Tet, Ein Lamed Mem, Mem Hey Shin. Here it is in this amulet, like to carry on in silver. That was also another way to use it. Okay. In the prayer, for instance, in the Psalms 150, verse 6, Kol Hanshama Te'alel, every soul will praise God. But the initials are Kol Haneshama Te'alel, Kaf Hey Taf, for protection. Im Kol Neshima, V'Neshima Te'alel, every, you have to breathe, Kaf, Hey, Taf. Lefisha Hashem Hazeu Ha'inayim Shema. That's one of the ways to meditate on that. And you say it silently. With this name, you can destroy enemies. With this name, Moses killed the Egyptian. Okay, Lama Takeh Re'echa. Okay, Milat Takeh, to hit, same letters as Kaf Hey Taf, different order. That's from the writings of the Arizal. And that's why in Sephardic prayer books, you have in the one before the end, blessings in the silent prayer, it finished with Atov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. Lecha, there's a letter Kaf, emphasized with the 3 dots on top of it. Na'eh, you have the 3 dots over here, it's a Hey. Tav, 3 dots. You should meditate on Kaf, Hey, Taf. Okay, in some books it says for protection. That's in every prayer. Okay, Yud Lamed Yud, we said that's from the tree, the fruit of the tree of life, about the reading of the Torah, chapter 5, speaks about you want to raise the sparks that fell to the darkness. Hashem Lamabul Yashav, Psalms 29, Yud Lamed Yud. That's the second name. That's the Arizal, Rabbi Zakloria, 16th century. How do we use that? How do we get that power? First of all, the Song of the Red Sea, if you look at the Torah, you look at the top of the page, that's how a regular page in the Torah looks like. That's a top paragraph. The lines are written from right to left, okay, this way. However, when we come to the Song of the Red Sea, there are many, many spaces. They're much more white than black, which means they're much more light than darkness. So reading the Song of the Red Sea daily, says the Arizal, reading, thinking that you are experiencing the splitting of the Red Sea, which means You experience God's force when you allow God's light in. Everything is possible. And all miracles will come true. Okay, so that's one way, reading the Song of the Red Sea daily. If you don't read Hebrew, read it in your language. But the consciousness, the meditation should be that you're standing there and you experience that release. Here you see Egypt dead behind you. They're not going to be after you anymore. Okay, other tools. Okay, so now we have another gift. The story is not over after the splitting in the Red Sea, because it's never over. As long as we live in a body, the story continues. And you can see the story in the book of Exodus, chapter 15, verses 23 to 25. Vayavo Marata. They came to a place that is called bitter. Why bitter? Velo yachlu lishtot mayim mara, because there were springs over there, but they were bitter. And that's why they call the place bitter. Vailonu am al Moshe, and the people were complaining. Manishte. Vayitzak el Hashem, and they prayed to God again. And God chose Moses a tree of life. He throws the tree into the water, and the water become sweet. Here again, the same concept. We always need to realize, as much terrible is the problem, the situation, as bitter it is, that's how sweet it will become when we simply take the occasion, step up to the occasion. And then and God said, that's verse 25, Im shamot ishma lekol Adonai Elohecha, if you listen to God's words, vayashar ben after saying, you saw what you do, what is honest and authentic, okay, and you listen to his precepts and you observe the rules. Kol hamachala shesamti b'mitzrayim lo asim alecha. I wouldn't put upon you all the diseases of Egypt, because I am God, your healer. Okay? So what do we get from this? What do we get in verse 26? We get the secret of healing. I am Hashem, your healer. The healing, the true healing, comes from the connection to the light. All other healings, they could be temporary, by physicians, but you need finally to reach the real true healing, turning all the bitter memories into sweet, turning all the traumas into revelations. This is the key for everything, the key for true wisdom. Ki ani Hashem ofecha. And in the words, Alecha ki ani Hashem, you see in the yellow, the four-letter Yud that belongs to the name of God, that is spelled out, that this is the name of real, the level of wisdom, the light that shines without any limitations. Okay, so we have the secret of healing over here. And also, after turning the bitter water into sweet, Moses finally hits the rock, first time, and they have water for the road. What does it mean, water? Without water, you don't exist. And then comes the story of the manna. And the story of the manna is amazing. Verse 386, there's no water. They pray. And then, as nimtza kadosh baruch hu malei brachot b'chol yom, when God says, I'm bringing you raining bread from the heavens, who is feeding the poor? Who's feeding the rich? Who's feeding every person, every little creature on earth and in the seas? Because God is the source of all blessings. That is the consciousness of sweetness. Some people work really hard and they hardly make a living. Some people don't work so hard and are not so smart and they still have plenty. It's not about that. It's about your connection to God's bliss. פותח את ידיך ומשפיע לכל חי רצון. Opening your hands and feeding every living creature. His will. What does it mean, his will? The will that is drawing from, again, Atika Kadisha. Connecting our minds to that place, to the endless love of the Creator, will solve also our finances. Because that is the desire of the Creator to feed us, much bigger than our desires to be fed. And therefore, whoever prays for food and sustenance daily, because he knows my food daily is coming where? Just from this ancient original light of the creation. When you live like this, you become God's child, God's son. Because of you, the blessings shine from above to below. Then comes, and we finish with another gift. They're coming up to a place that is called Masa Meriva. Quarrel and fight. Al Riv Bnei Israel, that's Exodus 17, verse 7, because the children of Israel, they were fighting with God, testing, saying, Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu ayin. Is God among us, or the endless light of Atika? And they were testing that. What's wrong with that? Why they were punished? Why were they punished? And the answer, in the result, they were punished by the Amalek attacking them. And Rabbi Ashlag says, you know, when a person is not married to a woman and is looking at her, this is upsetting and really distressing and even not polite. Why? He's checking her to see if she's good or not and so on, so she gets stressed out, and it's really impolite and wrong. Okay? When a person looks at his wife after they got married already, she likes it, she loves it. Why? Because now that he committed to her, he's looking at her because he's looking for things to love and to like. And that's why she loves when he looks at her. Same thing over here. When they were testing if God is inside them, they were checking it out, not with love. They were just checking it out. They were not ready to commit. And the result was the attack of the Amalek, the horrible nation of Amalek. That these are those thoughts of doubt and negativity and horrible people that attack us. Those moments of horrible, illogical cruelty and negativity, inside and outside, this is the Amalek. But God is still giving us the war against the Amalek is faith. And he's giving us the healing against this war, because that war will go on till the end of the days. Why? To give us always the opportunities to rise above the darkness and bitterness. And that's why the end of the Parasha, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Exodus 17, verse 14. And God says to Moses, Ktov zot zikaron b'sefer, write it for memory in the book. Sim b'oznei Yoshua, put it in the ears of Joshua. Ki macho emcha et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim. I will erase the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. When we complete our journey and reach that place that we finally overcame every doubt and separation and contradiction, which are named by the word Amalek. Amalek. That's the darkest of all darkest. That's a hatred. When you look around and see hatred, terrible, vicious thinking. Yes, what do you get out of it? This is the Amalek. This is the Amalek. It's here to stay till we can overcome all of those negativities and we can see more, but just the light. And basically, that's the great gift of Parashat BeShalah. Thank you so much.